The University of Cape Town's SRC is among 26 universities that have benefited from a 30 million rand donation from the Motsepe Foundation. The UCT SRC has decided to divert its donation to international students. The SRC argues that UCT is an international institution and it is only fair for international students to also benefit and get financial assistance. The president of the UCT SRC, Hlamulo Korombi, joins us now to tell us how they arrived at this decision. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. How did this decision come about?
Thank you so much for inviting me here. But I think our decision to come to that part where we decide that we will take majority of the money and give it to international students was the fact that when we were negotiating with the management, I don't know if you are aware, we reached a point where students who were having a fee debt were given concession due to different categories which they fall under due to how much they are owing the range. And on that concession, the main requirement was you must be a South African student or a permanent resident of South Africa. In that manner, there is no international student, even a single one, who benefited from a concession. So it means in that manner that all concession was excluding international student at all. That is the reason why when we received money from the Foundation, which we are grateful of, we thought of those brothers of ours who don't come from South Africa, who are international students. Our institution is one of the institutions which have quite a number of international students.
You speak about the majority of the money, Hlamulo, as well as certain categories which needed to be considered. What are some of those categories?
Yeah, so when I talk of categories, when we engage with the management and then we went to take it to council up to level where council approved, we reach an agreement that there are certain students who are going to be allowed to register even if they are owing the institution. Let me go maybe through the categories. All students who had a confirmed funding for 2024, even if they are owing institution, regardless of how much, they were allowed to register. All students who were owing the institution less than 50,000 rand, they were allowed to register. All students who were owing institution the range between 50,000 to 100,000, they were allowed to register, but due to two conditions. It's either they have never received concession or they are doing their final year. All students who were owing more than a range between 100,000 and 200,000, they were allowed to register by two conditions. It's either they've never received the concession or they are still within the range of N+1, or they are doing their final year. They are doing their final year this year. All students who are owing above 200,000, they were allowed to register as long as they've never received concession or they are doing their final year. With those categories, we were able to cover a quite number of students who were facing a fee block. But unfortunately, all these concessions were only applying to only students which are South African students or permanent residents of South Africa.
So how have students on campus reacted to this move?
You see, majority of them students were assisted. Even now, we had a large number of students who thought they will not never come back. They will not come back this year. Who in the second week we started seeing a lot of number of students coming back to campus. But what you must understand is, as much as all these concessions happen, we had few students who maybe they don't fit in these categories, which some of them are not really assisted. So it means they are the one which will consider them in the smaller portion which we got from Motsepe Foundation. As much as I've said, majority of it will zoom in and maybe focus more international students. Then the remaining money, we can look at those who didn't qualify. But those who didn't qualify are few, because if you talk of a percentage-wise, I can say we're able to assist close to 80% and above students who were owing the institution to come back. Now we are just left with few students. And if you check on who are those who are willing to come back, you may find that there are with the numbers which we can count with our fingers.
Hlamulo, the reason I ask you how this has now trickled down to how students are reacting on campus is merely to really get a sense of what the feeling is on campus with these funds being diverted to international students. What is your reaction to people who may perhaps be of the view that it should benefit South African students only and, of course, accommodate those who would have wished to come to the university but were unable to because of funds? You know, I'm just trying to get a sense of the sort of reaction that you've got and received on the ground from some critics who may not be as optimistic as you are.
Yeah, I think, you know, critics will always be there, but something which, when as leaders, we understand that not all the time which will make everyone maybe be okay with our decision. Sometimes we have to take compromising decisions, because what we understand is that UCT, it is UCT because of the South African student and international student. And we didn't say all the money is going to international student, but we said the majority of the money is going to go to the international student. And when we look at it, even the international student which we are going to assist, it's not like generally everyone. We are also going to focus more on SEDEC. So when we talk of SEDEC, we're talking about African international students, which are kind of these countries which are near to us, Zimbabwe, Botswana, those which are in SEDEC. So it's something which, if you look at it, I don't think it's something which someone must be maybe not okay with it, as much as some will be expected us to say it's only assisting South African students. But in that manner, it means we could have excluded international students in everything that we have done this year. From the concession, we didn't include them. It means even from this money, we're not going to include them. It means now we are no longer working as the SRC, which represents both South African students and international students.
Yeah. In terms of the symbolic gesture, what does this move signify?
This move just shows how, how our SRC want to unite, especially Africa, as much as we are South Africans, but we still find ourselves inside Africa. As black people, I think by all material times, we must always unite.